doing things.
It's happening?
Things is happening. It's the Between Two Wrenches podcast. We've made it.
This is it? This is it. We've made it. Next level.
2 years of anticipation. The crowd is ready. We have the crowd on a button. It's pretty fancy.
Man.
It is Cooper. It is Phil. It's the official Max-Bilt podcast, Between Two Wrenches, our inaugural episode. So thank you for being a part of whatever this disaster is.
Whatever it comes to be.
It's going to be amazing. It is going to be amazing. First things first, we have to thank our brand partners who are a big part of the reason that we are doing this. I'm going to say in lieu of traveling, because we have plenty of travel on the calendar this year. We'll talk a little bit about that with our first big event coming up at Jeep Beach in just under 2 months. But we are going to be taking the podcast on the road. We're going to be doing things from across the country, as well as talking to people in the industry, outside of the industry. Maybe get some of our musical friends on as well. But without our friends like Gel Blaster, fine purveyors of
all things wonderfully fun.
All things fun. This is a crazy story how this started for us, is because an employee brought one in, had got one at Shields or something like that, and ended up coming in and was like, "Look, I got this toy," and we're like,
"Actually, I think it started with, oh man, I got in trouble today at
school."
That
was how that's.
It was one of the high school kids came in, and he's like, "Yeah, man, check these things out." Just got him back after being taken away because we got in a fight with these in the parking lot, and they're like an airsoft gun, but with an Orby gel ball that you can shoot inside because they just dry up. And they still hurt, so you've been hit.
Right.
It's great. It's a nice spin on. It's safer than BB gun fights, and it's less mess to clean up.
It is, and we ended up reaching out to Gel Blaster and just saying like, "Hey, you guys have cool things. We do cool things. We should do cool things together." And they were like, "Hey, you guys are crazy. Here's some Gel Blaster." So thanks to Gel Blaster. They will be a part of our Jeep Beach presentation down there at Daytona International Speedway coming up at the end of April. So stay tuned for that. Our friends at Crown Automotive, years of
we go way back.
Brotherhood
way
and
back.
sisterhood with our friends at Crown. I feel like we should say that with a Bostonian accent, or throw a little mass.
Yeah, it's tough though, there. Especially when you say that on the spot. I can't. I'm not an accent on the spot guy.
Especially when we're not drinking.
It'll come out very like Australian or something.
Hey, from a land down under. Crown Automotive, though, a big part of all the things that we do, not only with Max-Bilt, but also Epic Willie's Adventure, which we'll talk about. That's coming up throughout the month of June, starting at Bantam Jeep Heritage Fest. But Crown has been with y'all and with Max-Bilt since not since day one, but pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's been. I want to say that we started working with them real close. During our Epic Willie's Adventure 2016, we had reached out to them, but they had we'd been working together because one of our niche markets is old vintage Jeep parts. Mm-hmm. So back in the days of our friends at JP Magazine, kind of connected us, and then once Epic Willie's Adventure became a thing, the relationship with Crown really strengthened, and we started building them vehicles for their to exhibit at SEMA. And I think 2016 was our first year that we exhibited with them in Las Vegas, and then pretty much every year we've got a standing spot in a booth. As long as we build cool things, they'll let us put them in there.
We'll keep up our end of the bargain, and they'll keep up their end of the bargain. Revolution Gear and Axle, another proud brand partner of ours. Shout out to Brooke. I think he's have like another kid. So congratulations, Brooke.
Congratulations, Brooke.
Way to go. Go team. Team effort.
We're the fam.
Warren Industries. We ran into Andy Lilienthal back at, we were out at Easter Jeep Safari last year. My first time meeting Andy. He's got all of the energy.
Oh yeah. Tons of energy. Fellow graduate from University of Wisconsin Stout. So that's kind of cool that we connect. He's all the way over in Washington, but his roots, come back here, and he's in the area at least once or twice a year, and we try to hook up when we can.
Yeah, he emailed me. Of course, I think it was over winter break or over Christmas break, and saying that he was just passing through, and he remembered why he keeps on passing through, and he doesn't stop as often because we had gotten a huge snowstorm right before Christmas. He was like, "This is why I don't take a whole lot of time to hang out in the great state of Wisconsin." Terraflex and Falcon Shocks, another great brand partner of ours. My Jeep, the Wicked JK, has the Alpine lift on it and the Falcon shocks, the piggyback shocks on it. And that thing went from basically stock to, hey, let's go take it to Easter Jeep Safari and climb all of the mountains. And
Yeah,
done it
man,
without,
I'll tell you,
Terraflex.
there's a lot of phenomenal suspension companies out there. Our connection to Terraflex shoots all the way back to 2009 to our first SEMA exhibit, which was one of our center consoles and a JK console that Burnsville Off Road, now Dakota Customs, had built to put in a Terraflex booth. And I was fortunate enough to meet the whole crew back then. And then after, as we were building the business here and kind of continuing to choose products, we've really leaned on Terraflex heavily in the last few years. They're the packaging, the OEM quality that they provide just gives you a lot of peace of mind when you're building high-end rigs for high-end clients.
And happy belated birthday to Dennis Wood.
That's right.
The man
Happy
who's
birthday.
got his face on a T-shirt, which...
If you don't know Dennis Wood, well,
yeah,
you should.
Yeah, I think it's Dennis at Terraflex on the old Instagram. So, and another big thing, Nacho, the Nacho Experience, Nacho Lighting, the TM5s. We just put 4 on the Gladiator and took it out. You took it to El Camino del Diablo.
Yes.
Down in the desert.
Yeah, we got lost for a week down in the desert, but it wasn't because we couldn't see.
It's not for lack of lighting.
Yeah, no, those Nacho lights are crazy and innovative. There's a lot of phenomenal light companies out there also, and we've used, well, if not all of them, most of them. And it's been a long time since a LED company has done something truly innovative, and just the circuit boards that Nacho put in their lights to be able to give you spot, flood, multiple different styles of lighting all in one unit. It's like, well, yeah, duh. It's refreshing. So
a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Twist tie. Am I nervous?
I think I've been leaving twist ties because everything originally came all twist tied up from our new podcast equipment, and I just, when I get frustrated with twist ties, I just throw them.
I can see that.
There's a collection in this studio-ish, lunchroom-ish area. Milwaukee Tools, our brand partner, which has supported. I know we had a couple of years ago at a big team up with them. We got to hang out with them at SEMA this past year, back in 2022. Reconnected with those guys, and they just sent a bunch of awesome new innovative tools to the shop. And happy to be a part of another Wisconsin company. Doing good things with Milwaukee Tool.
Yeah, just learned that. Today Milwaukee's been around since 1940. Jeep's been out since 1941. I think there's a connection. Yeah,
we saw the OG Milwaukee Electrical Tools logo.
Right,
was up on the Google search, and I was like, bring that back. I'd wear that on a T-shirt.
I would too, absolutely. No, they're a great brand, and it's cool too because they've always been known in the trades, certainly construction industry, but they've been branching out pretty hard over the last couple of years, and definitely filling a need for the automotive space.
Yeah. Those are our brand partners. A couple of key points. Again, we talked about Jeep Beach that is coming up April 23rd through the 30th down in Daytona Beach, Florida. We have a booth out there at Daytona International Speedway, which is super cool. It's going to be a fun week. Have you done Jeep Beach before?
I have done Jeep Beach. I believe actually it was 2016 or 2015. We went down there, brought the crew, set up in the infield, and I mean it was definitely so. I think that was another year that we chose to not do Easter Jeep Safari just because of the timing proximity. Usually it's like a week after, and there's some road warriors that'll go from Moab to Daytona and then home, but just being able to shut the shop down that long or not be here hasn't always been in the cards. But we made the choice to do that a few years back, and it was a great choice. We got to drive on the beach, and it was definitely less wheeling, more, beach vibe, Jeep party. And trust me, that's worth it too. So I'm excited to get back down there and see what it's like after. I know every year it's been growing. So
Yeah, and we're excited to have our booth down there and be a part of some of the after parties and stuff like that. Hopefully, connecting with some brand partners. Gel Blaster will be a big part of our event down there. So
Yes.
if you happen to be in the Daytona Beach area and you want to come and see us at the booth at the Speedway, do that. We'll be giving away some Gel Blasters and doing some other cool stuff as part of that. Also, a save the date for Saturday, May 20th. That is our second annual. Go Topless Day.
We can say that
cruise.
now.
It is annual. It is not the inaugural. Last year was the inaugural. This year is the annual because it's repeating.
It's refreshing to be able to say that and not say like our first annual, even though it rolls off the tongue. But then you always get
Inaugural.
those few people that are like,
Inaugural.
you can't say that.
I said it wrong once. I hadn't made that mistake since.
Right.
So that is coming up. We'll have information on getting signed up on the website, Max-Bilt.com. Otherwise on the socials, including our Instagram page, which is at Max-Bilt Off Road. Fundraiser. That's just like we did last year. A fundraiser for Crawl for the Cure.
Yes.
Which happens in Gilbert, Minnesota later on this summer.
We're doing a little twist with that one this year. So if you're local, make sure you keep looking out for that. And we'll be doing a cruise as well as potentially some camping too. So
there's options aplenty. So the reason for this inaugural episode, the first episode of many episodes of the Between Two Wrenches podcast, is kind of the origin story of Max-Bilt, how you personally, Phil, got started with not only automotive, but then focusing on Jeeps specifically. Obviously, the shop does a whole lot more than just Jeep stuff, but like where did the influence in your life to get into that mechanical aspect begin? Take me back in time. Give me a little time machine.
you got that?
I don't know if I think I have.
Oh, that's good. That's
close.
good. That
It's
works.
kind of time machine-ish.
They really have these things sorted out. It'd be way back. I've been a creative, how does it work? I was always a how does it work type kid. I was the one that was pulling everything apart and then walking away from it, worrying about putting it back together later, if at all. So creatively, mechanically kind of minded. Also always been really flighty. If you know me, we don't just do one thing here and do it really well. We do a lot of things here, and we have an awesome team to be able to do all of those things well. But I think I was like moved out here from Connecticut when I was in high school and kind of got an itch for the automotive shop and wrenching. And like the first vehicle I had that I had gotten from...
That sound effect, by the way, that's the dog,
that's real.
Luna.
Come here, Luna.
Having some water.
Come here. Do you want to say hi to everybody? She's like, no, I don't really like you.
Next episode, we'll add puppy cam. We'll have puppy cam on there.
Yeah, I
we
like
can
that.
Zoom in on where the dogs are.
Yeah. Man, it's amazing how much water a dog can drink too in one sitting.
Well,
right?
to be fair, 43% of that ends up on the floor, and there's just a puddle back here. So it is
they
amazing.
try to say that dogs' tongues are really efficient. I don't know if
beg
it
to
just
differ.
doesn't look like it.
I see the trail.
So I was in high school and I had worked for a farmer, and he had an old like 77 Ford Highboy sitting in the back field. I was, just getting a license or something, and I was like, hey, what are you going to do with that? He's like, oh, well, for $150, you can work it off and you can have it. He said, it doesn't run. You have to figure all that out. And I ended up I stripped it all the way down, wire wheeled the frame, painted it, bought new suspension, started not really knowing what I was doing, started building it back up. And then I probably got it about 30 hours from running, and I stopped. And then it actually went back to his farm into a field. And then years later, so that was in high school. And then I want to say it was like I graduated in 04, late 05. I was at Napa working with Adam. And I was talking about getting a Jeep. Well, and the reason I got into the Jeeps, because I was working at Napa. I was going to school for auto body at the tech school. And my dad, who was living in Iowa at the time, called me up and said, hey, I've got an old CJ7. I know you're looking for projects to repaint for school. Could you repaint it? I knew nothing about CJ7s at the time. I knew nothing about how rusty they are. And you don't just repaint a CJ7, you rebuild it from the ground up. Otherwise, all you have is dust and iron oxide. So I said, sure, yeah. And I get it up there and I look at it and it's like, man, you could throw a football through this thing. Looks just moldy Swiss cheese. And so bring it in and I'm like cursing this thing for 4 months while I'm, cutting patch panels and nursing hangovers and welding pieces in and trying to get this hunk of junk, try to get this brick that needs to drive down a road to look a little bit nicer than when it came in. And then a couple of months later, it got done and I was like, man, I'm never working on another one of these again. And then I pulled it out of the shop and I cruised downtown through the local college town. No top, no doors, jamming some tunes. Summertime, sun was just blazing hot. And I was like, well, yeah, all right, so I need this. I gotta have
need this in my life.
It wasn't the wheeling. It was that sense of freedom. And oh man, having a bad day and you just cruise around, crank the tunes and roll. And so I had to give that Jeep back to my dad. Picked him up from the airport, sent him down to Iowa in it. And I went home, and that weekend was when I was telling Adam had been kind of looking because I'd been working on my dad's Jeep, and he had found an old '67 Commando. I'm trying to remember. No, okay. So I had answered we had the Trading Post was
yes,
yeah, the old black and white classifieds. It wasn't in the newspaper. It was its own like newspaper print.
Yeah, set outside like the grocery store and like all the convenience stores and stuff. It'd be a
Right.
little rack of them. Used to be free, then at one point it became a
It
quarter.
switched, right.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I don't know how long after it switched, that I'd been stealing them for a long time because I would just scoop it up on the
Well,
way up
it wasn't like, in technology these days, like you'd scan your thumbprint and it would take a quarter out of your bank account. It was just like a little change coin thing that was like Velcroed on the rack of the newspaper. You're like, well, I mean, whatever.
Right.
Like who's keeping track?
That's weird. Who put that there anyways? Like that's a scam. That's never happened
It's
before.
not real.
And so I was flipping through there because we'd work at Napa together, Adam and I, and I'd get the Trading Post and we'd be, in between customers, like seeing what the next project we had to do or if there was anything under free. This guy had like Jeep for $500, and so Howard Wangan was his name, and I was like, Adam, let's go look at this Jeep. And it was either my idea or he saw an ad for a '67 Commando. Either way, we went out to Howard's house together, and the one that I remember looking into was like, ugh, no motor. It was definitely at that point in my life like above my skill level, and then Adam found the Commando and he was like, well, how much he's wheeling a deal on that. And he had this other CJ7 parked in front of his garage. That was like, you could throw a baseball through, not like
a football. Okay.
Yeah, so like sports. And so I was like, well, you guys are working this deal. Howard, what would it take to get that? And at the time I had a 91 F-150 truck and I had this 77 Highboy sitting down at a field in Oliva and like $40. So I didn't have really any money. And yeah, he's like, well, I got to have $2,500 for it. I said, well, I don't have $2,500, but I got this pickup truck that I just paid $1,800 for. And I've got this old Highboy. You can have them both. I don't care. Just take them. And we made a deal and I got that Jeep and I painted up as a twin to my dad's. And this was all pre Max-Bilt. So this was 06, 07 maybe. And I'm still going to school. Auto body wasn't really my thing. They told me in a letter grade.
It wasn't self-described, not your thing.
No, it was like, hey, this, the whole attention to detail, that was difficult. I'm a great painter. Everything leading up to that, I'm not your guy. And also any subsequent classes other than the labs, I didn't go to. So they told me that it probably wasn't a fit for me with the F that I was received.
Makes sense.
So then I went to sales and marketing, something I was always good at. So, and during that time, my dad had called me up and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to buy one of those Brand X center consoles." And I was like, "Oh, well, don't buy one. Let's build one. We've always built stuff. Instead of going out and spending hard-earned dough, let's build it exactly how we want it."
So that's how the center console thing started. It wasn't like a grandiose thing. It was like flash in the pan. Like, yeah, let's just, why buy it when you can build it?
Exactly.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. And it was one of those things where I don't, the mother of invention is a necessity. I didn't have any money. He had money, but it was just, again, he was in Iowa. I was actually at Heather, my wife's brother's house when we started like designing it. And we were going back and forth faxing like sketches and dimensions. And
okay, shameless plug for the fax machine.
oh yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, you heard me right.
Okay, if anybody got a facsimile, like we have a fax machine here in the office, I'm like,
Nobody knows the number.
how does this get access? Do people fax us things?
I think we scan and they call it a fax. I don't.
Fair enough.
Anyways, thanks technology for making that obsolete, but still hanging around.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm proud of the fax for just hanging in there.
Thanks Canon for keeping the fax machine on their printers and scanners.
And then like we were cutting tag board and foam core and we're making models of it. And the first one was made out of like wood and fiberglass. The whole idea was there's no spot for like charging a phone in an old Jeep. There's no dome light because you don't really have a roof. There's no good spot for a stereo because if you put it in the dash and it rains at all, it just burns it up. So we're like, well, let's put all of that into a center console. So we designed it out. We've got LED lights on the inside, the outside, but that kind of came after like the second ideation, which is 2008, when finally it was like, all right, we're gonna make a go of this. I'd love to keep building Jeeps. That would be, and like my ideal goal was, just build dream vehicles for people. But at 19 years old or whatever I was, it was really hard to be like, hey, people, give me your money. Trust me. Yeah. We can build your dreams.
Write me a check.
I've just started having dreams. So some of them were nightmares. But so I knew that if we were going to be able to do big projects, we had to have some street cred to our name. But also, and the same went for if I wanted to get these consoles out on the market because we felt they were truly innovative. And so it was like, well, how do we do that? Well, we start traveling, we start going to shows. Because it was really like Facebook was just starting then too. We had a website. It was pretty archaic, like thanks Angel Fire or whatever.
Download this free
tutorial. Yeah, it was. And,
HTML coding.
Yeah. And if you draw a bunch of little images, or you like snapshot, basically you made like a flip book for your header and it would be animated and you're really excited about
this
that.
This is the coolest thing ever.
Yep. Well, and all the meanwhile, like in school, we're learning about like different businesses. And instead of like when they would say, hey, bring up a fictitious business. Well, how about I apply it to this concept or idea that I'm trying to come up with this Jeep piece? And my middle name is Maxwell. So that's kind of where the whole Max-Bilt came about. And it sounds better than Phil built. So
I don't know. Phil built, that's kind of a ring to it now.
But there's a bunch of chain reactions that I felt needed to happen to be able to make this work. But going to school, working at Napa, I had an understanding of like automotive parts, and I'd have opportunities to be able to do side jobs, brake jobs, fuel pumps, whatever. So my nights were filled with doing like regular general mechanics. My days were filled with building the business, building the brand, making networking connections. I had met through work again. I had met another guy who was an engineer at a sheet metal company, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I can help you design the product and get it drawn into like a SolidWorks program, so that you can start mass producing them." And so we started that, and then our first production run was in spring of 2008, and we had friends, family, for like the 10 days leading up to it. We're building product in the garage. We're getting Jeeps together. I borrowed a truck and trailer. Honestly, our first story of going to Moab is its own podcast. But it was, if I believed in signs telling me not to do something, I should have probably turned around a long time ago. But there were definitely some hurdles to jump through, but it definitely made the juice worth the squeeze in the end. But so it was, we've kind of kept that same business model through since the beginning. You know, we still offer, well, we're a manufacturer, so we build product. From our center consoles is still a high moving piece for us. Our number one product certainly is our Trail Tail tail lights, which is a direct OEM replacement for CJs, YJs, TJs. We've got some JK adapters. They're used on trucks, trailers, kind of everything. But so we're in the market. We're a well-known brand for quality pieces. We don't have a huge selection of part numbers, but the part numbers that we have, we do really well. And then we also are, the vehicle upfitter side and general repair. So all makes, all models. We'll do oil changes. We'll do no job really too big or too small. We definitely, our expertise is in 4-wheel drive. Our expertise is in, building the overlanding rigs, building the wheeling rigs. But then also, building those dream vehicles, it's all super fulfilling, but being able to pour a lot of like heart, soul, and passion into a person's project, working with them side by side and like downloading all the information from them that, for example, we're building, and it's not Jeep, it's Bronco. We're building a Bronco for a father and son, who the son's had this Jeep since he was preteen, given to him from a family friend, and his entire life, he's 19 now, I think, and he's got spreadsheets. He came into the office and he's like, he's built that thing on paper every different way you could possibly do it, to the point of like, this is literally his dream. And it's fun to be able to remind people that, ultimately they want to drive the vehicle that they're building.
Right.
And that's awesome. However, the journey's the destination, right? So, working together side by side with us and his dad, and picking every nut and bolt, and being a part of the design of every single aspect of that vehicle, truly making it theirs. Yeah. That is almost as fulfilling. And I've heard a lot of customers, and I know I missed that part on each project. That's why I look forward to the next one. When you're driving it, you don't get this time back. You don't get this. And sure, we can rush it, but it's that instant gratification that sometimes the long play's a little bit more fun.
Also, that says something about, there's a lot of commentary out there in the ether about a younger generation and their lack of, I don't want to say the wherewithal or their focus on a specific thing, or everybody wants to be, as we're trying to do right now, it'd be, the next YouTube sensation. But to have somebody, by the way, let's throw up that YouTube plug. It's right there on your screen. Thank you. But it's cool to see somebody who's had a project in their wheelhouse for that many years, and to be 19 and to be enthusiastic about it, and to go not just like, here, put this together,
right? Or
I can go out and just buy this, probably done to spec the way he wants it done, but to actually get hands dirty, be a part of it, and then let you guys kind of lead the way. That project is one of the cool ones that roams in and out of here.
Yeah, we've got a few that are pretty awesome, and I know I went from 2009 to 2023 pretty fast.
Well, we hit the fast forward button. I will take you back though. I know you probably see this up on the screen over there, but this is the OG of the OG, the current Max-Bilt shop, but not currently. This was like day 2, I think, after you had signed onto the property here.
It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think that there's green grass.
There's green grass. There's nothing behind the building now. There's obviously a whole residential area back there. There's a bunch of commercial buildings.
We used to shoot guns. Like a month after that, we were shooting guns in the parking lot, rifles out back into that hillside. Now we would hit people's houses.
The shop that is now this now houses actually the manufacturing department of Max-Bilt. Clearly before the expansion.
That caramel colored Jeep, Project Werther's there, that is actually on top of your desk.
Oh, to
give you some perspective.
Fascinating.
We've changed things around considerably.
Yeah, things have altered.
That was 2012. So yeah, I remember, the first shop was our house, and we're still in that house. Because
you used to be doing like oil changes and stuff like where the kitchen is now or something along those lines.
Yeah. So I built several Jeeps where my kitchen counter is, and it
feels like a good like dinner conversation piece. Like, did you know where you're sitting right now, new friend?
It's pretty. I love to cook too, so like it's like I can remember setting up a set of Dana 44s for a scrambler I was building in my living room while I'm dicing up, tomatoes. But that was, I want to say it was 2009. Excuse me. No, it was 2010 because Heather was pregnant with Jackson. And let me think through that real quick.
I don't have a thinking button. We can do the chimes again.
That's pretty much what's going on up there.
Jeopardy theme. Can we do the Jeopardy theme?
I was made aware in. Yeah. Okay. I was made aware in October that she was pregnant, and Jackson was born in May. And in between, over that winter, I'm building Jeeps. This was 2010 into 2011. Must have been. Yeah. And, yep. And I remember it was like 2:30 in the morning. She used to get so mad because I just would work all night long. And usually it was, like I wasn't making a lot of money. I was just in my brain, I'm setting a scene, right? Like someday this is going to be great. And it is great. And it has been great the whole time. But she came downstairs at like 2:30 in the morning. As I'm welding, I got my lid like flipped up, like, oh yeah. She's like, are you, number one, are you coming to bed? Yeah. I was just about done. And she's like, but you got to stop. We got to find a different place. She's pregnant, belly out to here. And she's just like, all I smell is
misery,
welding and grinding gas, filtering up stairs from the shop. Cause it was a 1-bedroom house. And so that was when I moved. We went to Moab that spring and then basically unloaded the Jeeps from the semi at the new shop on our way back. And so we were there on the west side of town from spring of 2010 or 2011 for about a year and a half until the owner of that place was like, y'all are maniacs. You need to get out of here. We got Jeeps strewn about. We overtook his property. We were just like infesting weed.
Yeah. But that hasn't changed, by the way.
And we still use those guys.
Hasn't changed.
We still use those guys a lot. Baxter Engines. They're phenomenal. Gary was a great mentor, just on business and trying to navigate, what it's like to balance work and family. And so then this used to be a Jeep shop before it was my Jeep shop. It was Joe's Southtown Motors. And Joe was ready to retire in Hawaii. So he's like, he gave me a good deal on the property. He's like, I just want to fly out to Hawaii and, start a little service station and pump gas and talk to the locals. So take over, this place. And we did. And it was scary, but we're really glad we did it. And then I think 2 years later, we put up our first 2,500 square foot addition where all of our wrenching is happening. And then we finished another 2,000 square foot building that we use as our mini epic build center. And this spring we're breaking ground on our 7,000 square foot addition for our major epic build center.
So there's been a lot of steps.
There's been a lot of steps, man. And it's been like, I I'm probably a terrible business owner. I know I was a bad employee. I'm probably a bad business owner.
Is that maybe why like most people who become business owners are like, well, I couldn't handle myself as an employee, or nobody
could handle me.
So I'm like, well, I guess if I'm the boss,
Right.
nobody can fire my ass. It's fine.
Yeah. But then the more you advance, the more you realize how you have to have a team to hold you accountable, and that team can fire me. So that's why you can put me in place whenever.
I just have the buttons to turn off your camera and your microphone. Yeah.
Right. And not tell me and just leave me sitting here rambling. But it was, we made a lot of decisions. I made a lot of decisions based on passion, heart, where I wanted this to go. I always tried to make every decision as if I had $1 million in my pocket, so that money was not the motivating factor. And like the bank doesn't always like that. The IRS didn't always like that either, because sometimes I'm not a detail guy. We established that. But thanks to Chippewa Valley Tax Services for getting me on the straight and narrow.
There.
Right.
Thank you.
If you're local, those guys are great. But that's been knowing where I've been wanting to go this whole time, and whether or not I had the resources or the team to get us there. I guess that's that whole fake it till you make it. But every step of the way, we've had who we've needed. We've had phenomenal support. Like, I don't know why Heather's still with me, honestly, 90% of the time.
Well, it's because of all the fumes.
Right. Yeah.
you know those welding fumes up through the bedroom. She's like, she just doesn't know any better.
Oh, I think she does. Well, yeah, I think she does now. The fumes have cleared, but no, like, crazy support of friends, and most importantly, our family. And it's fun to be able to show the kids that if you put your mind to something, it doesn't have to be serious and boring. It can be fun and it can be exciting. But then also like trying to be as picky as I can with like the team, but also accepting what everybody brings and finding ways to encourage that, because I think that makes the business just more interesting. It makes the day-to-day work life more fun, because we only have one shot at this whole thing, so we might as well enjoy the time. But yeah, we still got to get work done, and there's still uncomfortable conversations. There's still dealing with money always sucks. Why can't we just build cool shit and not have to worry about the rest? But I think we're doing that. And I think that's why like the podcast is a cool aspect and spin on obviously your previous life. And I think we need to get to that in a second too.
I've had a lot of microphones in my face.
Yeah.
Just microphones.
Yeah, no, I know. That's all I was thinking. And that's why I think this podcast leads itself to not just, make sure you torque the head bolts on a 4-liter straight 6 in the correct orientation, or else you might warp the head. Nobody really cares about that. I mean, some do. Trust me, I do too. But
there are ways to find that stuff out.
Yeah, exactly.
Information.
But I think it's the lifestyle. It's the we've got a lot of stories. We've a lot of fun things, a lot of crazy things, and so why not delve into that and share that? Back when social media was less, not to sound like crotchety, like cynical old man
stuff, yeah.
But at the same time, like when the algorithms weren't so algorified.
Hang on, is that a word?
Yeah, we could put it into Wikipedia. Thanks, internet.
Done.
But we were able to share, and the thing that resonated with our audience was the fact that, and you see it on our socials, and we're definitely getting back to that, where this is our family, this is what we do, this is our life, and people really, I think, respect that and find that interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of eyeballs that cross our social media that maybe aren't Jeep enthusiasts or off-road enthusiasts, but there's definitely a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, bro, to shoot out Patrick Peterson's his quote, because there is a lot. You mentioned teaching your kids that there is a lifestyle out there that is not you have to get up and go to a job that you hate because you want to make X amount of dollars so that you can spend your time not at work doing things that you actually enjoy. You can actually have a place of business, an operation that is enjoyable to go to, that you have fun with. Because we get the comment that we get a lot of the time on and off of social media is like, what do you guys do for like work?
Well, we drink bourbon and we record podcasts.
Yeah, sorry, checks in the mail. Stop calling me after hours. But no, there's just, I think, a lot of embracing of the lifestyle that is off-roading, that is this family attitude of we get to come and hang out with our friends and make podcasts, build cool stuff for people, and you get to watch people as they come in and pick up their dream vehicle and drive it off the lot and go, break it for the first time, and then they come back. I mean, that's part of the experience, I think, of this industry, that we get to kind of tell the story now in the podcast and through social media. But those stories have resonated on social media since Max-Bilt's origin. Again, in the infancy of social media was the infancy of the business. So it's a fun story to be able to watch and grow with.
When you've been around it for a while, so let's hear it from your perspective. How did you get involved with this mess? It's your turn. We're turning the light onto you.
Remember, we were talking about bourbon. Remember that? It's right.
I do.
It's right here.
The infinity bottle there.
I don't even know what this is.
It's the infinity bottle.
I don't know what that means.
So I saw it on TikTok, and it's great. So basically, you take, 2 to 3 pours of your favorite bourbons, and you make your own blend. But then, as you finish, or you're getting to the end of another one of your favorite bottles, you put it in there. So it's always, the flavor profile is always changing. Well, doesn't that sound like a really fancy way to say, like, you put your trash in that bottle and you drink
pretty much.
it?
Yeah, it's like when you were a kid, you went to the soda fountain, you just put everything in there. What do they call it? Swamp water.
Yeah,
it's
right.
That, but it's the adult version of that.
Yeah, it's so, and then you can feel classy because, like, it's an infinity bottle.
That definitely fits our profile.
Blended Kentucky, Canadian, Irish stuff.
There's a lot of origin going on inside of that bottle.
They weren't my favorite whiskeys. It was just whatever was left over sitting.
Yeah, the favorite stuff doesn't stay on the wall very long. It's like that stuff goes home.
Yeah,
it
gets gone on Friday afternoons.
Yeah, every once in a while. No, I think being in media, the media world from age 19 until not age 19 anymore, very much older than 19, to watch.
You could double that.
I'm not a numbers guy, like you in this infinity bottle.
It's never ending, much like you. Much like your legacy.
Much like me and microphones. It just won't go away. But no, radio for 20 years, and that was interesting because you get to follow along with how social media became an integral part of media itself, from that aspect, and going from being how you got your information, how you got your entertainment, to having this output of everybody can put their own entertainment value out there and tell their stories on there. And so growing into 20 years of radio, social media growth, that becoming a very integral part of how radio itself worked, to be able to tell your story that was usually just audio and then visual. Podcast came along, and then right at the peak of all that, like, I got let go from radio. It was like I wandered around Earth. It's just sad.
I remember that.
Sad, and I had started a podcast, and Phil came on. And he said, "You should grow a beard." And that was in 2019, and here we are, now working together. But as far as like you and I coming together on this whole Max-Bilt thing, it was epic. The Oregon Trail epic, the original one that was supposed to happen in 2020.
Yep.
So before the whole pandemic stuff happened, we were having meetings and talking about, going on the Oregon Trail and sponsorships, and this is going to be amazing. And then obviously that didn't happen.
Right.
Things went awry. We ended up postponing it for a year. I'd gotten into a couple other projects of questionable nature. And they're like, hey, we're gonna come on Epic with us. Like, let's go.
Let's get you out of the mafia.
Let's get you. Come on over here. Let's
back to the light.
How about let's go west, young man? Haven't you been told that Oregon is full of meth?
Yeah.
The further
man,
you go,
just don't go to Portland. You'll be all right.
Just the whole Oregon, when you get into the state, it's beautiful.
Mind blowing.
Man,
I could not believe, just to derail our conversation again. I was just having this conversation last week with a guy that everything that we saw on that 2,000-mile trip from Kansas through Idaho, we saw again in Oregon.
Yeah.
It was like the plains, the rolling hills, the river canyons, the mountains, the forests. It was
Oregon
crazy.
was the condensed version of like 1,500 miles of that trip.
Yeah.
In about 300. It was like, here's everything you wanted to see in a very, very short period of time and distance. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I just got a text message and then I got super distracted.
I get
Started
it.
to read it and then I was like, no.
I'm in the midst of something else right now.
Thanks, technology.
But on that trip, I think, Phil and I were pilot and co-pilot. And like 3 days in, you're like, why don't you come work for me? And I was like, well, let's see if we can survive each other's company here in this, old Willie's truck for the next 14 days.
Yeah.
By the way, it's 110 degrees out. There's not like, access to showers everywhere that you go. You're like, look, here's a body of water. If you would like to rinse, here's your opportunity. By the way, it may also have been where they drain the manure from the nearby farms.
Oh, the North Platte. Yes.
How many times can you cross the North Platte in a 2-week period? 436. That's how many times, back and forth. But I think, that's how you discover like that. Not only can you work with somebody, but that you can really have a close friendship with somebody. Cause there's tests there. There's endurance. There's funky smells that you didn't even know existed. And then there's dealing with, again, a lot of other personalities on that trip, to which we both came out laughing and unscathed for the most part.
The high dose of insanity that we have helps.
Yeah, when you're about to lose your mind on the top of Mount Hood, you're like, well, there's worse places to lose your shit, I guess, than here.
Right.
But
Let's have a Coors Light and watch the sunset.
So much Coors Light, man. How Coors Light did not like see their numbers and go, we should track this and see where
they would have found it.
Where are these fellas going? Oh, they're in Portland. Stay away.
Right.
But I think that trip, not only first time for me, like being out on that type of adventure, but also seeing some of the places that we got a chance to see. Who knew Idaho was so beautiful?
Yeah.
Like when you cross in Idaho, you're like, wait, like I thought it was just like potatoes.
Right. Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. And
it's apparently way more.
Yeah. But there's some malicious stuff too, but that's like neither here nor there. It's a little bit further north, but a lot of beauty there in Idaho. But I think after that trip, it was like, it made sense to get into a career for the first time that is really legit, full of adventure, and every day is something new. And if you're not, planning on doing something cool, then, you're taking pictures of it or you're plotting the next adventure. So that's how we ended up where we are today on this podcast, talking
Sitting
about
here.
the origin story of Max-Bilt. So there was an interesting video that I saw. It was, I believe it was on a Barstool Sports podcast. And I saw it over the course of this last weekend. Over the course of this last weekend, you were at a Boy Scout camp,
Yes.
Doing some like climbing ice climbing or something.
I didn't get to go ice climbing, but my kid did, and it was awesome to see him. But I'm not gonna lie,
Were you a little upset?
I was really upset.
Okay,
I was very
wondering.
jealous, and I was like, "His kids get priority, apparently."
So I think you had sent some pictures of the trip and of the ice climbing, and I was like, oh, it's cool. They're camping. And then I happened to see this video, this podcast video, and these guys were talking about like, hey, when you go camping, and you're in a tent with a group, do you say goodnight to everybody? And I was like, well, if you got your kids there, or if you're with your family, you're like, yeah, like goodnight. And he was like, well, what if it's just like you and a bunch of other dudes, like camping
in the same tent,
in a tent together? Like, do you say goodnight to one another? Is like, what does the end of that day look like? Do you say goodnight to one another?
That's a good question. What's your answer?
Well, here's what I flash back to. So we've been on many trips. We've been on many trips together.
Yeah, I know the answer.
We've had Airbnb stays together. We've had hotel stays together. And I was like trying to think back, like, we've stayed in, in the same hotel room before. We've stayed in the same Airbnb before. Have ever been like, hey, good night, Phil? And I'm like, yeah, I think I have.
100%.
Like every time, like we were like, oh well, I guess.
Well, remember the one
Well, I
time
guess
when you
goodnight.
tried to do that without saying goodnight?
Oh, I my Irish goodbye on
Yeah,
Epic.
in Fort Laramie.
Yeah,
and I
well-
chased you down the street, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!"
Well,
Like, I'm tired.
To be fair, I was hammered, and we had taken a shot of some bourbon, some whiskey, and I did the shot. Now in my mind, I'm like, well, that's it. You need to leave now, and I did.
You spun on your heel and walked out the door.
Did
Like in
Like
front of
a
everybody.
leprechaun.
It was great because it wasn't like, all right, well, they're all talking
No.
with their backs to the bar or backs to me, so I'll just slip out the door
No,
quick.
no, sir.
It was eye contact with everybody. They got wide. You spun on your heel. You flung the door open and walked out. And we were all like, was he just
left.
saying, was
He said
that goodbye? Was that?
it was give me a minute. Thanks for bringing me back to the bar. That's just where I wanted to be.
No, but I think
So
then we
once,
let
yeah.
you go back.
Yeah, I think I did end up walking through Fort Laramie back to my tent in the middle of the city park, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
the West is great.
It is. But it was just an interesting question. Like, yeah, when you're just like hanging out.
Well, I feel like
hey, Phil, just
I do it
good night.
just because otherwise it's like I've also been in conversations with people in a tent and then you're like, hello?
They just faded off into the, into the
I
ether.
thought we were talking. I guess not. All right. Well, I've also been that guy to be talking and trailing and actually just got accused of that when Keenan and I were on our trip in Arizona. It's funny you say that. So we slept in bedrolls, which, a bedroll is literally just it's a chunk of mat with some blankets, and it's rolled up.
It's
in a
like
piece
in
of
kindergarten
canvas.
when you had nap time and you had to roll
Yeah.
the mat out, but it's like everything that you had with, including your blanket, is all like packed into one.
Yep. So
little-
you just
yeah.
flop it out of the back of the truck,
Kids love
pull
it.
the two straps, flunk. We live here now.
Ta-da.
And we're by the tailgate of the truck, and we hung like a little lantern, and we had some snacks. We're eating some snacks, bedtime snacks.
This is an adorable story.
know.
I hope they make it into a Disney movie.
And we're just chatting, and we're looking up at the stars, just like holy, getting that whole crazy perspective. And I don't remember this course. I just remember what he told me the next day. And he said all of a sudden, he's like, and we were talking, and you said, "Oh man, look at Orion." And then I said, or he was like, and then I said, "Yeah, Phil, wow, that's great. It's." And then he went to ask me a question, and I responded with snoring.
Oh.
It was within 15 seconds. Went from
Well, at least snoring is a good indicator, because I feel like that kind of question, like you could interpret silence as being like you're just really in the moment. You're
super
like,
introspective.
look at how small I am compared to these stars. But so maybe it's a good thing that you had a little bit of a little.
Exactly.
I guess.
Phil's, that really?
I guess
he's,
Phil is,
he's out. All right.
Phil is done for the 2 seconds. Yeah, good night, dude. I just wanna, no, good night. It's interesting. So I want to do a quick little thing here on the podcast
Do the things.
called What's in the Shop. And we have a couple of cool projects in the shop right now, including Project Mofo, which is, if you follow us on social media, you've seen videos and postings about Project Mofo. I'll let you kind of give the overall synopsis and then kind of an update of where we're at with Mofo. John Kuth will be proud when he watches this on the YouTube.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of John, we were approached by a brilliant individual that had a really cool plan and a super awesome idea that he had started. And he was working with a company up in the UP that I think they went out of business, or they changed
they were
their business model.
downsizing, doing a little something different. Yeah.
But his idea was, hey, I want to take a FedEx truck, put a 4-wheel drivetrain under it, and then build a global expedition vehicle that can go anywhere and everywhere. And John's a retired engineer. He definitely has an engineering mind. And I believe I was the one that took the call first, and was, of course, absolutely, we can do that. That's if it's not something we've done, it's definitely
Sidebar:
up
have
our
you
alley.
ever said no to something,
I'd
like an idea, like a concept?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, that's what I didn't think so either.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to, boundaries is, I've been trying to work on that. It's a personal growth.
Yeah,
thing.
my therapist says the same thing. That's neither here nor there. Different podcast.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe this is the one free for all we get.
Right. But I said, sure. And typically if I'm the one that gets that call, then they know the answer is going to be, if it gets filtered to me, the answer is going to probably be yes. Yeah. So, and it was, again, the project was started, the differentials were installed, the steering was weird. It ran, but it could move, but it was not safe to drive. So step one was getting it safe to drive. So we went up to the UP. We got to meet John after several phone calls of planning and understanding, but then you get to the point where you're like, okay, I got to see this thing. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I can quote this thing out because it's a time and materials project. We want to take a square peg and put it in a round hole. Literally, it's a big square.
You think driving a Jeep in the wind is like driving a refrigerator box?
And I'll tell you, when we drove it up for our test,
that's true.
It was like, this thing drives great for whatever, 6 inches of lift and 43-inch tall tires. A lot of people saw it going down the road and they were like, but I'll tell you, other FedEx drivers were like, dude,
I need me some of that.
But
where do you get that conversion kit? So when I'm delivering your Amazon packages,
right? Yeah,
I can deliver in rain, sleet, snow, hail up the side of a mountain.
Well, sidebar, one of the gals here, her husband's an Amazon driver, and I want to say I've heard more stories of those Amazon delivery trucks being stuck this winter than I've probably ever been stuck in my life. And let me tell you, I've been stuck a lot.
Hey, Jeff Bezos. Give us a shout. We'll throw
hook you up, bro.
Little Ford WD on. We'll throw a little something extra on the bottom of those trucks. Get you where you need to go.
So we were trying to figure out, and then of course MoFo, right? Mobile Field Office.
Yes.
So, I mean, it could mean a lot of things.
Yes, but this is a kid's show.
It is.
Family programming.
Is it?
MoFo.
So Mobile Field Office, the idea behind it is that you can take your office anywhere. And the customer, we're planning on going into production with these. It's not like we're just building one and done. But this is our prototype, getting the R&D kind of figured out. Full solar. We're using propane as an absolute last resort because a lot of times if you are to ship this, there's restrictions against propane cylinders. So we're learning a lot as far as rules and regulations internationally as we build this. Because again, it's easy to build one. It's hard to build 10. So you got to think, how would I build 10 when I'm building one? So that one's a really cool project. Certainly follow along, search the hashtag MoFo. John's got some videos up on YouTube. We've got some as well. And I know we plan on definitely putting together more as it progresses into needing more updates. But mechanically, that's sorted out. So now it was leveling system, and now we're doing the solar and the interior build out. So cool stuff.
Yeah, I think plan to at least plan to have it at SEMA. That's kind of on the schedule to have it out in Vegas.
If nothing else, it'll be out in Vegas during SEMA. The goal is certainly to find a company that would like to work with us and have it there.
I feel like just with the way it looks, you just pull in and be like, "Hey,
I'm here.
We're here." And they're like, "Oh yeah, like, duh."
Yeah, I think we're out in this parking lot.
Like
right?
You're not bringing that to Vegas just to bring it to Vegas. Like,
right.
Oh, this will be good going on through Vegas traffic on this trip. You know what? This looks fun in the I-15 and this. I love it. Let's make it so number one.
Well, and it'll be good because that'll be a great test drive because from there we're gonna head down to the tip of the Baja. So we'll probably be doing a podcast from Cabo.
Hey, Sammy.
The end of the year.
Sammy Hagar, my guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We can have him on. That we got that in the shop. What else? We've got that 67 Bronco that I kind of touched on. We're putting an R2.8 Cummins diesel in, and James Duff suspension. That whole build out, like I said, was spec'd by Sam himself, and with some pointers from us, but that'll be a great unit. We've kind of shelved that for now. We're really juggling, trying to get our new building set up. So Eau Claire County, here's looking to you. Let's get that variance going, please.
T-Swift hearts and stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
If that makes any difference.
We promise we'll be good. Just let us have our building.
Did you hear what we were talking about earlier? The way it used to be around here when
Right.
it was
we
like the Wild West. Now
Yeah.
at least we're semi-civilized.
Right.
Like we moved
wouldn't
into
think
Tombstone.
of that. We have gel blasters now. We don't have to use real rifles.
See, safety is still on the list.
It is.
It's somewhere out there.
Yep. And so, but the other one that actually your first SEMA
Yeah.
was we brought out a Cherokee Chief, had it in the Crown booth, and the next customer I'm going to talk about wandered into the booth. A big
Wandered is
man.
a good word.
Yeah.
Like there was a swag. There was this
Saunter.
That's the word. Saunter. He
Yeah.
sauntered on in.
Yeah. It definitely. I mean, yeah. Too bad you didn't
We
have
gotta
the Wild
go. I
West.
gotta get the Wild West thing next week. Next week.
But he came in and he's like, in a crazy Southern drawl, like Odessa, Texas, Southern drawl, or right on the border. And he's just like, I got one of these. Can you build me one? Fix it up. I got it on my ranch. Sure. We can do that. He's asked for a card and I was like, how about you give me your number? Cause I'll pester you. Don't want to leave that to chance. And so we talked a little bit. He wandered away from the booth. And then the next day I was like, well, Texas isn't that far from where we are.
Right. In Vegas. It's definitely on the way home from.
Right. Well, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Carlsbad,
New Mexico is definitely on the way home to Wisconsin from Las Vegas. Look at a map. It's not. It's actually the opposite
Carlsbad isn't. New Mexico is. There's a big difference.
Very large difference.
But the next day I was like, I called him up and said, you like to do cool stuff, it sounds like. How about you just tell me where this thing is? We'll just swing through with the trailer, yank it, and bring it home. And we might not be able to work on it for 6-8 months, but at least it's there. I seal the deal. Also, I love the opportunity for a cool project, and this one sounded like it definitely could be. So it's a 79 Cherokee Chief. He said, here's the address to the farm. Here's the key code for the gate. It's around back. So we literally napkin scribbles, loaded up Friday night and headed out of there. I think we made it to, not Scottsdale. We made it to Flagstaff that night, and crashed there for the evening, then got up and we were like, all right, well, we'll just cruise down to, we just got to go up about 200 miles and hang a right and then go 450 more to the border to Carlsbad. And then it was only like 3 turns. Do this, do that, do this. And then you're there.
And it definitely felt like, and I think like Tombstone, or not Tombstone, but Yellowstone it was it still is obviously a popular series,
Oh, yeah.
but everybody was kind of in the Yellowstone fever right away. And not that you're in Wyoming, but you're out on these, it's ranch to back-to-back ranches.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a feeling, there's an innate feeling that, well, we are pilgrims in an unholy land here. Like we are not amongst it was very clear that we were not
locals
from,
Right.
we're not from Carlsbad or the surrounding area. So anytime you'd pass somebody, usually it was like a Chevy Dually.
Right.
You're like, and they would pull off to the side of the road and let us go around. You're like, well, this is the end.
Right.
This is where this ends. But we eventually made it to the ranch. And,
Or when we almost ran out of fuel coming into Roswell, New Mexico.
Yes. Thank you, E.T.
for pulling us in with your
plutonium.
tractor beam. That was the only way we made it, man. I probably went 65 miles on when my tank said that I should have been able to do 15.
Yeah.
And I just remember slowly, every mile I'd go another 5 miles an hour slower. By the time we got into town, it was just an idle.
Yeah.
We made it to the gas station and then made it to the ranch, loaded up, turned around. I think that on the way stop added 14 hours to the trip home. But either way, we gained an awesome client. That was actually where Kent, our CFO, our chief fun officer, we we decided to kind of outline his involvement in the business, and he brought him onto the team about a month later. But he got to kind of see how we operate too, and definitely thrown to the wolves. It's you fun
learn
stuff.
You learn quick that you have to have an understanding support group back at home.
Yeah,
because you're like, hey, first off, going to Vegas for 5 days.
Yep.
Whatever your opinion of Vegas is, it's still Vegas. It still does Vegas-y things. And then make that phone call like, when I said we were coming home, here's the deal. We're going in the opposite direction, and we'll be home in another couple of days. But definitely a road trip that was worth it. And when you get a chance to, I don't want to say prove it to a client, but to show the legitimacy of like, hey, here's what we're going to do.
Right.
And I can't think of any other, outfit that was at SEMA that would be like, yeah, well, logistically, this makes a lot of sense for us to do, because it makes absolutely zero sense. But the fact that you did it and now the vehicle is here and Golden Eagle or the Golden Earring.
It's our way of earning the business a little bit too. When in reality, I'd love to say that it was a calculated business decision, but as I explained before, that was a decision a banker would not be proud of. And as far as business ownership goes, it didn't really make a lot of sense. However, we earned a phenomenal client, and I think we proved what we're able to do.
Right, because the trip back wasn't easy. We had a tire issue, repeated tire issue. Yeah, and we ended up like outside of Amarillo which, by the way, there's Amarillo nights, not exactly what it's cracked out to be. I'm just going to throw that 2 cents. Or we picked the wrong spot. I'm not sure. BYOB, bring your pizza in. I don't know. It was very strange. But trying to leave Texas was the most challenging thing because we got like just outside of Amarillo, and the tire went, and it was a Sunday. And trying to find a shop that was open ended up being like a Walmart, I think. That was open that we could get like some, I don't know if it was. And
then we ended up putting like wrong size tires on the trailer. And then we realized that this other Jeep that we were hauling had a sun visor on it. Had.
Past tense. Sorry,
Pat. Yeah. And we are keeping an eye out for them. If anybody's got like an old 50s car sun visor, we're in need. Pat's in need. But I'm really in need because, well, I lost it on my watch. But
it's somewhere between Vegas, Carlsbad, Amarillo, and
it was dark
Wisconsin.
the entire time. I feel like that we didn't notice it the previous day during the light, so we didn't know really when it happened, and we just noticed it when we were changing the tire. And we look up, we're like, didn't that have a sun visor on it?
Cool little sun visor.
Oh, it's
no longer there.
No longer there. Sorry, anybody that we hit too, if it flew off and hit your.
I feel like we would have gotten that phone call already. Like,
right.
Pretty recognizable crew. Rolling through.
I got another story about that. We're 2014 maybe. Moab, coming back from Moab, Utah. I had a 81 GMC cab over semi truck, and we were coming up into Palisade Canyon, climbing out just before. The town that we got to was Rifle. So the canyon before Rifle, and I believe that's Palisade. We're coming through, and we get a phone call in the semi from the chase vehicle. And they were like, you need to take the next exit. Oh, what happened? The trailer tire fell off the trailer, like flopped down. The trailer went over it. The tire stood back up. And then the trailer rolled over the tire, and that created. It's kind of like when you you put your thumb down on like a ball or something or a quarter, and it shoots out. That's exactly what happened to that tire, and it launched. And they had a 6 foot tall concrete barrier in between the two sides, that was probably 20 feet wide. It cleared that, went on to the other side. Of course, we're like, oh my gosh, you don't even know. Did anybody hear any brake squeal on the other side? Did any crunching? We're like, we got to get out of here. We got to get to the next exit. And we pull over, and we immediately went to like the 911 calls in the area. We went like, what's the police blotter saying? Thankfully there was no disruption in traffic. And then we got to figure out how we were going to we ratchet strapped the axle because we didn't have another spare for that. We took the tire off the other side. So now we just, instead of having 3 axles, we had 2. Ratchet strapped the axle up. And then we drove that thing all night up 19 through Rifle and Meeker on the most elk infested road in the whole freaking United States. And we got up to I-80 in Wyoming, and then we hung a right and we drove all night, made it just about to Lincoln, Nebraska. And like the semi is a carny truck. We'll just be like, like those small town carnivals and like all those janky semi trucks that are dragging around the tilt-a-whirl. We had a retired one of those.
It had already done its time in the circus circuit.
So the first thing we did was get rid of the mattress in the back.
Classic.
Yeah. And so that with a wedge trailer with missing an axle, we looked janky.
Yeah.
I think that
sounds janky.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have a picture of that, unfortunately.
No, but man, it was pretty great. And then we get to Lincoln, and that vehicle that was following us calls us up in the semi again. Says, "Dude, are you going to pull over or what?" And Jeremy, the Max-Bilt's #1 intern, was the one driving, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, he's been behind you for like 5 miles." So a state trooper behind us for about 5 miles. We pull over. I'm laying down on the bunk, and that guy gets out of that truck so fast and sprints down the passenger side, rips the door open on the cab over, and just starts screaming, "What were you thinking? Didn't you see me back there? Blah, 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 blah." And I like peek through the curtain, and I'm like, "Hey, man, yell at me. It's my truck. Don't yell at him. He didn't see you." And then he's like, "And what is this?" So then he did a full inspection on the whole thing. Couldn't find anything wrong. And then at the last minute, he looks, and it's an electric brakes trailer. And there's a tiny little cable that's supposed to connect from the kingpin. On a small truck, it makes sense. On a semi truck, this thing isn't braking. But if it does, then it pulls the e-brake and safely lets everything coast to the side of the road, not cartwheel into all lanes of traffic.
And then tragedy and fire.
Right, which, let's be real, that's what would have happened. Tragedy, fire. And so he grounded us and ended up escorting us to a truck stop, and we could not go anywhere until we fixed that. So
these are the kind of stories you can expect to hear on the Between Two Wrenches podcast.
Yep.
So there's other times State Trooper was involved and there was fire and brimstone, and we'll save that for episode 2.
No, that was a crazy trip. On the trip out was wild too, because we got caught in a snowstorm on that same Highway 19. And I remember driving to the top of the ridge, and I was like, "No, I'm not going down there. I don't know. I have zero interest." So here I'm stuck at the summit until a plow truck comes by, and I end up following the plow truck, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. But just before the plow truck came, a cop came, and he was like, "Guys, you gotta go. You gotta drive this thing down the mountain." And I was like, I don't wanna. I got some of these Jeeps aren't even mine. I can't afford to replace them.
But if I'm dead, I guess it doesn't matter, does it?
Then you just put her into Georgia overdrive and let her rip.
Jeez. I feel like there's a lot of that, though, and there'll be a lot of those conversations, because even the travels that I've been on with this crew and in my own personal travels, first off, it is easy to get from point A to point B these days. If you want to be somewhere, you just get on an airplane like a normal human and you get there. If you have, to bring things somewhere, obviously you get a chance to see the great countryside, and you get to see, that we don't really have a space problem. We have a people need to be too close to a Starbucks problem.
Right.
But there's always, anytime you're on the road for a long period of time, it's a 30-hour trip or it's a 2.5-day trip, there's always going to be there's always something that happens on those trips that makes it noteworthy. You're like, oh yeah, and then we stopped at that one place and that happened, and Roswell and Amarillo,
you have countless. Well, and these are the recollecting the different trips is kind of what brings a lot of them out. And again, this is why I think the podcast is a cool way to, I don't know, share the story, helps everybody kind of relive all the different aspects and share some of the, man, a lot of the stuff, it's like you forget about until.
That one. How are we still standing? That is the real question.
Yeah.
And we'll be having guests on as well. Guests from, like I said, from within the industry and other industries, and they'll be able to. I think that cues up a lot of stories for other people too, because a lot of people, especially when you talk that are in the industry, whether they work for some of our brand partners or they do kind of the same stuff that we do, they've made these trips before, and they may not have had the same, carny semi experience, but I'm sure something similar. They've had something, and we just can't wait to highlight it, make us feel better about ourselves. I feel like we did good for the first episode.
Yeah,
right?
I liked it.
Again, I want to throw this out there. Jeep Beach is coming up in the end of April 23rd through the 30th. We will be out there at Daytona International Speedway doing cool things inside of the stadium, and we'll be also out on the streets, all the after parties. Follow us on all the social medias as well. We will get you all the details about things that we have coming up with that. May 20th is our second annual Go Topless State Cruise. Go Topless State Cruise. So details on that coming up as well. For Phil Nervold, El Presidente of Max-Bilt Off Road, my name is Cooper. That is Between Two Wrenches.
Thank you, everybody.
Deuces.